Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food and with movement. And as we always do, we're gonna dive right into the topic, and today I want to talk about what clinics don't tell you. Because I myself was in an eating disorder clinic in 2015 and I honestly was a little bit disappointed. Because back then I thought I will go to the clinic and they will heal me and that's it. Of course, that's not how it works. You always need to do the work yourself. But also the clinic itself didn't provide the kind of help that I had wished for. So when I got released after 4 months, I actually fell back into old habits pretty quickly, and I suffered from my eating disorder, which was anorexia, for 9 more months before I decided to choose recovery and to do it on my own. And in the process of doing it on my own and of learning about recovery, I learned so many things that nobody ever explained to me in the clinic. And I recently got a super sweet message from one of you guys, so if you see this, thank you so much. And the person reached out to me and sent me a very long message and told me about her story and that she had been in several clinics, and she just recently found my channel and another channel on YouTube, and she learned about all the things I'm going to talk about today, and she felt so betrayed because nobody ever told her about this in the clinics she went to. And I feel like this is something so common. So many people never learn about extreme hunger or about overshoot weight or about other things that when it comes to recovery and eating disorders. So I want to talk about what clinics don't tell you today. And the first thing is actually that there is a genetic predisposition for eating disorders and can be triggered by dieting or under eating. A lot of people don't know this, and I made another video about it, so if you're interested in that, click on my channel and find the video. But I'm just gonna explain it really quick in this video. So there is a genetic predisposition that a lot of people who experience eating disorders have. And this is actually a very smart thing from the evolution, which provided the survival of certain groups. So in many herds or also families, a certain amount of people have these eating disorder gene. So let's say you have a herd of 5 animals and 2 of them have the eating disorder gene. And now a famine happens and there's not enough food around it, so the starvation actually triggers the gene and triggers the eating disorder. So the 2 animals who have the gene will stop eating because it gets triggered by starvation, which means that there's the little food that is available will be available for the rest of the family. So it sounds hard, but the 2 animals will probably die, but the rest of the herd will survive because there's still enough food because 2 of them starve themselves. So that is the theory of the eating disorder gene. And this is something that happened to me too. I did a diet and slipped right into an eating disorder. And this starvation doesn't even have to be intentional. So for some people, it actually means being sick and then therefore not eating enough, which can trigger eating disorder behaviors. This was the first thing that I would wish clinics would have told me. The second thing, very important, is extreme hunger. So when I was in the clinic, we had meal hours, of course. There was not a lot of therapy, honestly. I would have wished for more. So the only stable thing were the meal hours. And even though it was helpful, of course, because oftentimes we have to put on some weight first before we can work with somebody, before we can get in touch with our emotions. So of course the meal hours and of course the eating is a very important part of the clinic. But nobody ever told me about extreme hunger. So when I was in the clinic, I was in this controlled setting where a dietitian would sit next to you and would make sure that you eat up everything on your plate and that you had enough on your plate. And once you reached a certain BMI, they would release you from that setting, which was supposed to be motivating. For me, honestly, it was even more triggering. Because in my disordered mind, I was like, okay, once I'm released from that setting, people will know that I gained weight already, which was what I was there for, right? But of course, the eating disordered brain works a little bit different. So I was in this setting and I had to eat the food on my plate and everything, but nobody ever educated me about extreme hunger. And extreme hunger is something that happens to so many people after dieting or after an eating disorder. And it's basically just that your body will show you that it needs a lot of food to heal and to rewire. So extreme hunger can be physical or mentally. I made a whole other video about this. But just to explain it real briefly, extreme hunger basically means that your body gives you either hunger cues or mental extreme hunger, which is basically every thought around food. And many people need to eat a lot after starvation or after dieting. And for some people that's 15,000 calories, for some people that's more, and there's nothing wrong with it. The most important part about extreme hunger is listening to it. And I know that can be so hard when you come from an eating disorder that was very restrictive and when you were eating very, very little for a long time. And then you go into extreme hunger and all of a sudden eat so much more. And so in comparison, of course, it feels even more. But extreme hunger is so important because your body needs to learn to trust you again. And your body needs to learn that food is not a scarcity and that food is not dangerous. So if you eat and listen to your extreme hunger, you will actually show your brain that it is safe and that it can create new neural pathways, and this is where neural rewiring happens. So listening to your extreme hunger is mandatory if you want to recover from an eating disorder. But oftentimes, unfortunately, doctors or even dietitians are not educated about extreme hunger and confuse it with binge eating, which is a completely different eating disorder. And even though binge eating is also a restrictive eating disorder, but I'm not gonna go into detail in this video. If you wanna learn more about this, click my other video about binge eating. But to tell somebody, oh, what you're doing is basically a new eating disorder and creating fear around this is the worst thing you could do. Because while you are doing what you're meant to do, which is listening to your body, which is literally what you have to do in order to recover, you have a doctor or a dietitian standing there and being like, oh, that could be binge eating. And this is where a lot of relapses happen because unfortunately in clinics, a lot of clinics work in a way where they are like, oh, let's decrease your meal plan a little bit. Let's give you a little bit less to eat, which again, I can't state it enough, is the worst thing to do. And so this is the second point that I wanted to touch on in this video, because I see it so often when people reach a certain amount or when the hunger increases, clinics react to it with decreasing the meal plan when they should actually increase it. And the third point I want to touch on today is overshoot weight. I also made another video about overshoot weight, but overshoot weight is basically, it can be a reaction to extreme hunger, but there's way more things that play a role in overshoot weight. One of those things are the hormones leptin and ghrelin, which play a huge part when it comes to your hunger cues and also when it comes to your immune system. And leptin is actually created by your fat cells. So your body actually needs to put on a lot of weight first in order to balance out these hormones. Your body actually needs a little bit of extra fat so that your leptin levels can regulate. Overshoot weight is also the body's reaction to a famine, because as long as your body doesn't know if another famine will happen, it will try to stick to this weight, which is why it is so important to listen to your extreme hunger again, because the more you show your body that food is available, the sooner it will trust you and let go of the overshoot weight as well. And another thing that I love to mention, and I know I used this graphic so many times, but I'm gonna use it again, is that your body needs to restore your fat mass first before it can restore your fat-free mass. Because in order to restore your fat-free mass, a lot of reparation has to be done and a lot of energy is needed. So your body actually needs a little bit of extra energy in form of fat deposits to restore your fat-free mass. A lot of people in recovery actually gain weight already but feel super, super weak. And this is normal. I didn't know that when I gained weight, and I thought my body was broken, honestly, when it was just a normal reaction. So it gets way faster to regain the fat mass, and then over time, once your body learns that it's safe, it will regain fat-free mass, and everything will go back to normal. And of course, I cannot promise you that you will go back to your pre-eating disorder weight, because maybe you developed an eating disorder when you were a teenager, or maybe your body just changed, which is completely fine and normal. But when it comes to overshoot weight will go down on its own without manipulating the weight, without restricting, and without overexercising. So if you listen to your extreme hunger, if you rest, very important, and if you try not to stress too much about it, I know, very hard, then your body will find its own balance. But unfortunately, we don't talk about this enough in clinical settings or even in outpatient settings or even in therapy. Even primary care doctors are not educated about this at all, and trust me, I made a lot of experiences that showed me that. And so these are a few things that clinics don't talk about enough. I'm actually very curious. So if one of you were in a clinic before, I would love for you to share your experiences if you would like to. because I want to know how you felt about it, if anyone ever educated you about this, because of course I can just talk about my experience. And I'm pretty sure there's amazing places out there, and I really don't want to generalize, but I just hope this video helps some people. Maybe you were in a clinic before and it didn't help you, and now you feel like, oh, maybe recovery is not for me. That is not the case. I can promise you it's not the case. If you had recovery attempts before, and I don't care if it was 1 or if it was 30, and you didn't recover yet, then you didn't have the right setting yet, because everyone can recover. I promise you that. If you want to learn more about recovery coaching, you can reach out to my website, Heal with Marlene, and you can find all my contact information, my Instagram, my TikTok, and everything else. And if you're interested in coaching, you can schedule a free discovery session, and we're gonna find out where you're at, what your goals are, and we can go from there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.